Good evening, everyone. My name is Leah, and welcome to Discovery Wednesday with Guy Finley. Welcome to all the students in the room tonight, and welcome to all of you online from around the world. We're glad you're with us tonight. If you're new to class, our format will run about 90 minutes, and Guy will speak for about 60 minutes, and then we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll go to a Q&A session with Guy. And that'll be your opportunity to jump in and ask Guy questions directly as well. For those in the room, please be sure to turn your cell phones off. And for all of you online, if you have any questions, technical issues, or comments, you can always go to the chat area in your platform, whichever platform you're on, and Kate's behind the scenes there. She'll be happy to help you. I think we're ready to go. You ready? I will read the title and the key lesson. The talk title for this evening is Free Yourself from False Starts and Painful Dead Ends. The key lesson reads, every step along the path of life is the first and the last for anyone who chooses to walk in the silent light of higher understanding.
Good evening, everyone. And welcome to all of you joining us from wherever you are in the world, whatever day or time it is. You're in the right place if you want to start this deep and lifelong process of discovering not just what are your highest possibilities, but inseparable from that discovery, what it is that's keeping you from realizing them. On Wednesdays, at least twice a month now, we have what we call a Discovery Wednesday, where we work together to look at a topic. And we're going to have something along the lines of that this evening, where I'm going to invite you into this conversation so that we can look at something together that the clearer we're able to look at this topic and discuss it amongst ourselves, the better chances we have for making real change in our life. So imagine it's after dark someplace in a stable. And the horses that are part of this team that go up and down the Grand Canyon are all sitting there, and they're eating their hay and oats and doing that stuff that they do. But one of them is terribly silent, and the lead horse, we'll call him Max, he turns over to Simon, the horse that's silent, says, "What's going on? You don't know this, but they have conversations after you're gone." Simon says, "I must be the worst trail horse in the whole world." Now let me stop for a second and ask you, how many times a day do you think to yourself, you may be the worst trail horse in the world? Meaning, as Simon goes on to explain to Max, day after day, we go over and down the same canyon, and day after day, inevitably I misstep, and it causes me to have a fright, and I can hear whatever it is that's riding on top of me. Horses don't know what's on top of them. Just something is there. And I'm so tired of it. When am I going to be a great lead trail horse like you are? And Max says to Simon, "Well, you have to understand the problem. Now you have to understand that here's Simon asking Max, and the minute that Max says to Simon, you have to understand the problem, Simon has stopped listening, hasn't he? But it doesn't stop Max. He says, you're more concerned with looking like a strong and noble trail-wise horse than you are with it being attentive to where you put your feet down on the trail. You're so busy looking around to see if others are looking at you and how you're being perceived by the other horses and the creatures sitting on top of them, that you fail to realize that what you need to do when you're going up and down this road is you have to watch where your feet are going. Otherwise, you're going to misstep for sure. And you always do. Now, do you think Simon learned anything from that conversation? No. So I'll just bring you in right away. How many of you find out too late and then are full of complaints and reasons why you just made that misstep? You said that thing to somebody you didn't want to say. You acted out what you wish you hadn't acted out. You bought something you shouldn't have purchased for 1,000 reasons, whatever it may be. So I want to spend tonight, this evening, looking to realize, and I'll make it simple, how can I be in this same dark place again? How many times do I have to step into not something on the ground, but step into something in the ground of this mind, that when I step into it, the next thing I know is I'm falling. I'm enveloped in some kind of negativity. And as I find myself falling into this negative state again, it is a summary reaction on some part of me to look at this and go, oh no, not again. I don't want to be here. Yes or no? And where am I in that moment? Please, just to make the first bridge, where am I in that moment when I once again find myself having stepped into that negative state? Where am I in that moment other than having not seen where it was that I just stepped into it? And I cannot see that I stepped into it when all I have are the reasons why I don't want to be where I am, because I believe that somehow or other that changes eventually for me all of these missteps that I make in terms of my spiritual life. Everybody understand the premise? So part of our discovery this evening is really predicated on a key question. I told you we're going to start having not just key lessons, but key questions that set the stage for our key lessons, much as the one that Leah just read to you. So I'm going to bring up the key question, and when it comes up on the screen and when you see it at home, just don't get ahead of me. Just let's read the first part, which sets the stage for the question. Then we'll examine the question. Everybody clear? Please bring it up. No negative state can linger without it being given the attention it needs to hold us in its dark web of painful thoughts and feelings. Just stop there. Just think. Here I am. I'm in a negative state. Are you ever get negative? I'm in a negative state. I got off the phone with Bill, with Sherwin, with Sam. I looked at the news. I looked at my financial statement. I got a call from the doctor. I looked in the mirror. And I'm instantaneously thinking about what he did, what she didn't do. And in that split second, I am in a negative state. Am I not? How do I stay there? Do you understand? Unless I'm giving my attention to the very thing that I don't want, how else can I explain why I'm still there in that place I've misstepped? So the point is that I have to learn to begin at least realizing that somehow, though I do not see it yet, my attention is placed somewhere where, when it goes there, it puts me in a place that I don't want to be, even though it was my attention that took me there. Look, you say, well, I didn't mean to think about what they did. Well, why is it that when the thought comes about what they did and you have that reaction, why is it you have to go with your attention to try and resist or otherwise regret what it is that your attention be given to? Do you understand? Here, the main theme for tonight is how in the name of God have I become a human being who, like that, can have my attention remanded over to a regret, a grief, a worry, a hatred, and anger. And in the moment that my attention is taken there, to believe that I have no other recourse other than remain there in that state, thinking about how it is that I got there. Do you understand? So the question is, in this key question, what part of us wants to keep us wants to keep what is unwanted alive? What part of us wants to keep what is unwanted alive? Will you agree that what is unwanted is kept alive in you? How? Would you go to a restaurant and order food you don't want? Something happens, and the next thing I know, I am experiencing, and most likely again and again and again, the same old reel, the same old thoughts, the same old feelings, the sense of inadequacy, the fear, the guilt, the worry, the regret, the blame, the hatred of he or she that did whatever. And there I am, and I'm in it again. I misstepped again. How did I do that? And more importantly, why is it that I keep making that same misstep? Yes? What's keeping me there? We're leading to an important point, and we're going to start our list in a moment. What is it that keeps you reliving who you don't like, reliving what you did once upon a time that didn't work out, or what someone did to you? What is it that keeps you reliving your sense of inadequacy, practically speaking or spiritually, because that's part of it? What is it that keeps you in that state of judgment? Anybody want to take a wild guess what it is that keeps you living in where you have stepped into that unwanted moment? Anybody want to take a guess? Chris.
Trying to protect myself.
Chris said, trying to protect myself. John?
That which has no life without something to resist.
I didn't hear him.
He doesn't have a life without something.
That I don't have a life without something. Okay, I'm turning over the cards quickly. Leah, if you get it right, you can come and sit in my chair. If you don't, you have to do a dance and sing a song in front of the whole class. You want to venture another guess? She said, no, thank you. One day you'll get so tired of it. The reason that you fall into those unwanted places and that something in you keeps them alive is because you keep giving yourself reasons for why you're there. That's why. It makes no sense to you that you are a victim of your own reasons. I should say, it ought to make no sense to you that you are a victim of your own reasons. I'm sitting here, and I can tell you there are people watching right now in this room. You can't let go of what you can't stand. Why am I in pain? I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm lost, I did this. And the litany goes on and on and on. And it never dawns on you that every time that thought comes up about where you misstepped, you have all the reasons in the world for why that was unavoidable. And now with those reasons, what you're going to do one day to escape or rescue yourself, listen, from the consciousness that is giving you the reasons why you're suffering. If you could begin to see that on one hand, I feel like a victim. I don't want to feel this way again. I don't want to go through that again. And every time that negative state moves up and through you, it is attended by something that is thinking about that state. And as it thinks about what you're experiencing, it begins to give you all of the reasons. It validates you as a victim. Your reasons validate you as a victim of the moment you don't want. Can you see this or not? I don't want to go on until we... So now I want to bring you in just a little bit. Let's bring up the heading for our short list. There it is. What are some of the reasons you have for why you're still suffering over whatever that may be? What are some of the reasons you have for suffering over whatever that may be? It could be long term, you understand that? Like long COVID. It could be something that just lingers and lingers and lingers. Or it could be that yesterday I got some news and I haven't been able to set it down. What are some of the reasons you have for why you're still suffering over whatever you do? How many of you suffer over a relationship in the past? Do you not relive it from time to time? What are the reasons that you would do? What's telling you the reason why you have to do that? Now, I'll give you a couple like I like to do to prime the pump. One thing is, I figure if I can just figure out the reason why he did that, then I'll know how to change what he did or my relationship with him downstream, because I'll be smarter, I'll be above him, and I'll be able to proactively change the past. This is one of the reasons I think about the past. Isn't that one of the reasons you think about it? What about when you feel like somehow or other you're the most inadequate, you're the worst trail horse in the world? You can't stay on the path to save your life. Get the connotation. What are the reasons that you, when you feel like that about yourself, what are the reasons that you give yourself? Barbara?
They don't understand me.
Well, that would be one reason. They don't understand me, but this is something that just goes on in relationships. Here's a specific. What are my reasons? What comes up inside of me why I feel so inadequate or confused or stupid? John? Frustration, look. The reason I feel this badly is because I don't want to. I don't want to feel this inadequate. So my reason for feeling inadequate is that somehow or other I must be other than this inadequacy that I judge incessantly in myself. Because you can't have a reason for your suffering that doesn't involve some kind of judgment of yourself or others. Let's go to the room and online if you wish. Chris, what are some of the reasons that... Go ahead.
I have to defend the image I have of myself.
I'm still suffering over what you did or didn't do because I still feel like you don't see where I was right and you were wrong. That's a reason, isn't it? My reason for this anger towards you is that you don't understand how you trespassed. You pushed the border of our relationship. That's my reason for suffering. Anybody else? John?
This shouldn't happen because I deserve better.
Here's my reason. This ought not to have happened, by the way. And what ought not have happened? Please don't miss this. What ought not have happened? What I'm reliving. So what ought not have happened is that I'm reliving what did happen, And my reason for reliving what I'm reliving is that it shouldn't have happened that way. But the very notion and my attention to what shouldn't have happened is what I don't want. Can you follow that at all? Who else in the room? Anybody? Up above. Deb.
Trying to affect the future, do something to change what's happening.
I live in an almost permanent sense of insecurity about what may or may not happen. So my reasons for living there are I need to be proactive so I don't suffer what might happen to me. And what am I suffering in that very moment? Myself and my reasons why I need to prepare for a time that I've imagined may come, but I don't have to wait for it to come. I can suffer now and give myself all the reasons in the world why I have to do that. Look, why do we have these meetings like this? What are we trying to do? What was our topic? What lurks beneath? We're looking at something that's going on all the time inside of us that we're so asleep to that it never dawns on us that I'm sitting here reasoning out what I have to do or otherwise change, and the more reasons I give to myself for what I have to change or control, the more I'm visiting the very thing that makes me feel out of control, which isn't the condition but the consciousness that has projected it. You follow me? Who else? Nina. Namina.
I should always know what's happening.
Say again.
I should always know what's happening.
Yeah, okay, so she said, I have to know what is happening to me. That's essential. Now, the reason I have to know what's happening to me, why is the reason that I have to know what's happening to me? So I can avoid the thing that I fear. I want to know what's happening because I can't bear not knowing. I can't bear the confusion. I can't bear the doubt. I can't bear what's going to happen 2 days from now. Again, it's the same iteration if you look at it. I'm giving myself reasons why I'm experiencing what I don't want to experience, and the more reasons I have for what I don't want to experience, the more I experience what I don't want. You able to see it? So there's a loop there, isn't there? Now, we're going to move ahead. What's going on? Let's imagine that you understand this to some extent, that when I give myself reasons why I'm suffering, ostensibly, the reasons are there to help me resolve the condition I'm suffering over. That would be the mindset, wouldn't it? But the very giving myself of reasons why I'm suffering places me in the consciousness that is doing the suffering, and then is suggesting to me what I have to do so I no longer suffer. So I live without seeing it in an unseen, active and unconscious nature that never brings an end to, that cannot bring an end to its state. If you have a problem inside your house, now I know most of you aren't handy men or handy women, I'm assuming most of you aren't. But let's just say you are. And there is a problem with the kitchen sink. What would you think of your husband or your wife if you said, there's a problem with the kitchen sink, and they said, I'm on it. And then they went out to the garden shed and started moving tools around inside the garden shed. You would realize, wouldn't you, that this person has misunderstood the problem entirely, because the problem is not in the garden shed, and there's not a single tool in the shed that's going to resolve the problem under the sink. And not only is there no tool under the shed, but you can hear your husband or wife yelling at the tools in the shed because they can't seem to work on whatever it is they're trying to do. That you would know there's a serious problem, wouldn't you? Well, where do you go look for how to resolve this incessant revisitation of these states that victimize you? Where do you go? Where do you go? I go out, I go out someplace, meaning I go out in thought. My mind takes me, listen, into what the reasons I've given myself for that state tell me I need to do to change the state, so that I'm nowhere near where the problem actually exists. Instead, I'm psychologically, spiritually, miles, light years away from the actual source of the condition, because I don't know yet that my mind only knows, and this is important, my mind only knows how to look outside. You don't understand that when you're thinking about what to do and where to go and how to get this person or this situation, you don't understand. You're outside. You're outside the real problem. And you're sent there by the problem so that the problem can continue to propagate itself without you ever knowing what it's doing to you. We must learn what it means to see the interior world. And the last thing that occurs to us in these moments where we have misstepped is that the real misstep took place in the interior world, not the world we blame for the pain of where our foot has come down and created the problem. I can't stress this strongly enough, but we must not only learn, in quotes, to see the interior world, but significantly, we have to learn what it means to enter into it. We have to learn what it means to enter into the world where this problem recreates and recreates reasons for itself. And the only way that we can enter into this interior world is through our awareness of it. And even more importantly, we must learn to be able to develop our capacity to attend to what that awareness reveals. This is why everything just goes on and on and on. Why your suffering always has chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because there is a constant activity in the mind that first created the story. And as it creates the story, and you are the central character in the story, then you as the central character, listen, do not want to be in the story that your mind is telling you you're in. And as the mind tells you the story that you're in, then that same mind develops a certain resistance to its own imagery and then begins to give you reasons why you are where you are and going what you're going through. And the minute that you start looking at these reasons as a way to resolve the disturbance, you've just stepped another 3 feet deeper into that condition, into that unconscious nature. Still with me, everybody? So I hope that I can help you see this. I have to set the stage so that you can see what I'm talking about. I realize this may be a little difficult, but if you pay attention, I trust I'll be able to work through with you something that, and this is one of our big problems. There's parts of us that just don't want to struggle with what requires a struggle. It avoids summarily anything that asks it to go deeper than what it is habitually used to doing in those unwanted moments. And what is it that we are habituated to doing in an unwanted moment other than coming up with reasons for it and then letting those reasons guide us into what needs to be resolved according to those reasons? Where do those reasons come from? Hold the question. I have in my hand a simple mirror. Some of you, I trust you can see there's nothing in it but you. Now, the thing about a mirror, I'll hold it in front of myself like this. The thing about a mirror, and we're going to go into this quite in depth over the next few weeks as we head towards our talks. The thing about a mirror that's extraordinary isn't you in it, sorry, is that the mirror instantaneously reveals whatever is reflected in it. No little brown person, little brown person in the mirror. Can you see that? This is not easy to do. Oh, wait, who's that? That's Leah. Oh, wait, there's Ellen. Amita. So the point is simple, that whatever appears in the mirror appears instantaneously, and you cannot separate the fact that this mirror is perfectly reflecting what has shown up in it. Do you understand that? Now, the mirror doesn't know anything about this or this little circular thing. It doesn't know anything about that. But this is true of our consciousness, where in my consciousness, anything that appears in it, in the moment that it appears, just like this is there the moment the mirror shows it, so is whatever appears in my consciousness instantaneously there. But even more importantly, unlike the mirror and the object, the mirror of consciousness, whatever shows up in it, is not separate from the mirror in which it shows up. Look, the minute that something appears in my consciousness, I look at Deborah, I look at Leah, I look at Mike. Minute I look at one of them, my consciousness already holds quite a bit of information about them, not to mention what it picks up relatively to being in the moment. So that whatever I look at outside has actually appeared in my consciousness. I am looking what seems to be out there, but I'm not really looking out there. I'm looking at what has appeared in my consciousness. I am seeing my consciousness. The world that is reflected in my consciousness is the consciousness reflecting that world. And the way we can know that is true is because we already know so much about what appears in our consciousness. Now here's the rub. In this awareness, because that's what happens, isn't it? Suddenly the mind is aware of something that seems to be outside of it, but we need to understand what appears in this mind when I look at you isn't outside of me. Your body may be, but my experience of you and everything that comes in terms of a relationship is built into the moment in which the consciousness sees what is reflected in it. It's not even accurate to say the consciousness sees what is reflected in it. The consciousness is the reflection of whatever it holds. It's already there. I can prove this to you if you can understand it. How in the name of God do we make these scientific discoveries? How do the mystic masters or any physicist, how did Albert Einstein, from where come these magnificent theorems that prove themselves across space and time? Where did he see it? He saw it in his consciousness. Now, you and I, whatever we see, the whole of what we see is in our consciousness the moment we see it, but we never see the whole. Have you ever been surprised that you can go out on any given day and look at something beautiful? And when you look at something beautiful, something in you will say, oh, this is extraordinary. And you for a moment feel this extraordinary reflection in your consciousness because something in you is replete with the light, the shape, the forms, the colors. Something's replete with it. Do you understand? And then you can go out the next day and it's a whole new experience. Like it never happened before. You know why it feels like it never happened before? Because that moment never happened before. It is, for all intents and purposes, the sudden recognition, back to this, that the consciousness in which what is observed appears is not separate from what appears in it. This is what is meant by the observer is the observed. The consciousness in which the moment, the person, the circumstance is revealed is not separate from that moment. It is a singularity. Understood? That means that there is no difference and no distance between the observer and the observed. No difference, no distance. Now think for a minute what that means. You've had experiences like that where you see something beautiful or an epiphany comes, and in that moment there's no difference, is there, between the consciousness and that sudden revelation that's appeared in it. There's a singularity, and it's quite a different experience, isn't it? Absolute singularity. Now, this is actually the way life is meant to be. This is what an awakened mind is like. It sees and knows itself through what it sees, but knows that the capacity for what it sees is unlimited, while only limited things can enter into it. You're able to follow that sentence? Can't? Look, I could sit here and hold this mirror, and you all could walk in front of it 1,000 times. Each time you walk in front of it, it's reflecting the capacity of reflecting you. But we could just have you go by or have 10,000 people. This consciousness is unlimited. It is infinite in its capacity to know that which appears within it that seems to be outside of it. It already knows. Now, if it already knows, if this level of attention is capable of realizing in that moment that what it is looking at is not different than itself, then it doesn't need a reason why what it sees as being different for being different. You don't look at a beautiful day and think to yourself, I need reasons why it's beautiful, because there's just the beauty of that consciousness and its capacity to reflect nature. But you look at someone, or you look at your own memory, you look at something from your past, in that moment, there's not you and what that is being revealed. You see what you see in your mind as being different than the mind that is analyzing it. Please? You get it? I look out, it's beautiful, no problem. I look out and I see what happened yesterday, what she didn't do, what they might have done, what could happen. I see that, and in that moment, there's no longer this singularity where the observer understands he or she is looking at the possibility as revealed in that relationship, in that intersection. No, I don't see that. I see, what do I see? What do you see? You and I see what our attention is given to in that moment. That's what we see. Instead of a single attention that understands the observer, the consciousness, and what is brought into it, already knows, it's already part of it. No, this isn't, what you did isn't a part of me. The way I feel about him or her, that's not a part of me. That belongs somewhere else. And I suffer for it greatly, believing that as that consciousness does what? It brings into the moment, here's something you don't like, okay? And here's the consciousness. Appears in that consciousness something I don't like. In that moment, I have no awareness whatsoever that it is impossible for me not to like this unless something corresponds in me that is resisting what has appeared. Now, if you've understood the singularity, how can there be anything that separates me from what appeared? How can there be this notion that I am apart from the condition I don't want? Look, do you not feel apart from those moments that you don't like? Maybe you're confused with what I'm talking about. How can I be apart from even, look, I don't see what is, I see my reaction to it. What is that you're an unpleasant person. I don't just simply see an unpleasant person and realize that in that moment, a lot of unpleasant things are being revealed in me because of that. And therefore, I would be grateful. I would love my enemy because through that relationship is being revealed to me aspects that are in this consciousness I didn't even know were there. No, that's not that simple for me. For me, I have to come up with all kinds of reasons why I feel the way I do. And every last one of those reasons comes from a reaction that appears in that consciousness to what it believes is separate from itself. And if you're understanding what I'm saying, the reaction isn't because you're separate from what has stirred it. The reaction is because there is a singular relationship between the two things, and that moment is trying to get you to a place where you can see the fact of that. But I don't want to see the fact of that. Instead, my reaction gives me reasons why you are the way you are. My reaction gives me reasons to judge myself. Do your reactions not give you reasons to judge yourself? As if the judge is somehow outside of the moment of that revelation where something has come along and I'm a trail horse, I misstepped. I never see that I keep misstepping because my eyes are too busy trained on my reactions that are then giving me reasons why I need to get another saddle. I just stream of. There's a constant interference. But we take the interference as what is necessary to bring an end to the conflict. The real conflict is the interference. The real conflict is the moment in which, because I don't know what else to do, I'll simplify. Something happens. There is a reaction that is inescapable. The reaction brings up virtually instantaneously something that sees the reasons for why I'm disturbed. Now my attention goes where? Is my attention on the inside, aware of this indivisible relationship between the mind and its experience of itself? Or my attention goes to what? You can say my attention goes to the reasons I have, and where am I getting those reasons from? The past. Every reason I have for why, listen, I feel inadequate, I'm not going to make it, I'm stupid, I'm incomplete, I'm not this, I'm not, you can't have a reason why you suffer without the consciousness responsible for that suffering drawing a reason out of itself, out of its conditioned self for why you feel that way. It's like asking a hammer to heal a headache. Honest to God, that's exactly what it's like. When you start to feel like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm so sad, I'm so angry, I'm so afraid. That moment where you feel as if something unwanted has happened cannot continue itself, let alone define yourself, without you, meaning without your attention being taken and placed on the reasons you have for why you have those regrets. I don't know how else to say this to you. Do you have reasons for your regrets? And when you have reasons for your regrets, what are you visiting? The past. You can't have a reason, in quotes, for why you feel the way you do without something revisiting some part of your conditioned past and looking at that and going, oh, this is terrible. I need to escape that. Here's the reason I feel the way I do. Here's what I have to do about it. Now listen to this. One day you'll see this. I started this talk by saying you have to learn what it means to go inside. One day you'll see, and then you'll begin to work from it. There is no explanation possible for why you feel the way you do. Not one reason can ever explain to you why you feel the way you do, and every reason that you have for why you feel the way you do is given to you by the consciousness that demands you continue feeling like that so it can continue to promise to rescue you. This is the last, see, do you understand how, I don't want to be up too high, but do you understand how, all I know is that I have feelings that I don't want. That's all I know for sure. And I know for sure that I don't want them. There must be reasons why I have them. Because if I can't come up with reasons for why I don't want this moment, by God, that moment's just going to go on and on and on. Failing to see that it goes on and on and on because you have reasons for it. Because not one reason you've ever had for your negative state has ever changed the consciousness that's drawn into that dark place. So it can relive itself by revisiting the past and giving you all the reasons why you're a victim. And every reason you have for why you're a victim of whatever it may be. And I'm not saying people haven't done terrible things. This is a terrible place. It really is. I can't even describe it to you. Human beings are so sure that the reasons they have for why they're in pain are the only thing and only path to replacing that pain, that they are desperate to see that everyone and everything understand their reasons, align with them and their reasons, and then everything will be copacetic at last forever. Except there's one problem with that scenario, isn't there? My reasons fight with your reasons, don't they? You don't agree with my reasons. Nobody can agree with my reasons except for people who have had some similar experience. Then we can gang up together and become a group, a reasonable group. Try to let this sink in. Because the moment I have something disturb me, my attention is seized. It is seized. And it is seized by something that doesn't want the disturbance and that believes it can change or escape the disturbance as soon as it reasons out why it's going through that again. To recognize in that moment, and this is why I said you have to have your own attention. Without your attention, you're dead in the water. Because otherwise your attention goes wherever this consciousness reacts and places it. No, I have to be so sure. This is part of your work, is the gradual negation of the constant explanation to yourself of why you suffer the way you do. You have to be so sure that you don't know the reason why you suffer, that then you begin to do what? You begin to be willing to go into the suffering instead of letting the suffering lead you into what it promises will save you. Everything with us is reversed. we are instantly identified with what our reaction tells us to attend to. Yes? Instead of attending to what we're being tempted to identify with in that moment. So without knowing it, my attention goes to exactly what my reasons are, why I'm suffering, and my attention needs to go to the part of me that's giving me those reasons so that I can see for myself. I've been listening to these reasons. You know, if I don't do this, if I don't go there, if I don't hurry up, if I don't get them straightened out, if I don't get this fixed, I'm done. And so, am I anxious or angry or resentful in moments like that? Yes or no? I'm full of it. And then, the reasons why I feel the way I do tell me all you need to do is just, buck up one more time. Just power through it. Get in a fight. Do something. Just do that, and you'll get through this. But the problem is you never get through it. You never get through it because you never get to it. And the only way to get to it is to start understanding some of what we've been describing here tonight. If my attention goes to the reasons why I'm suffering, I am, without knowing it, identifying with the consciousness that believes not only am I suffering for a good reason, but I need to listen to this reason tell me why I have to suffer. Your reasons tell you why you have to suffer. You don't see the insanity in that yet. But when you finally do start to see the insanity, how many of you rush? Yes or no? How many of you feel pressure? Yes or no? Go through the whole list. Why? Why do I jump through a hoop? Do you ever jump through hoops? I have to change the metaphor. Now the horse is jumping through hoops. Why would I jump through a hoop? Because there's reasons why I have to do this. Because if I don't jump through the hoop, if I don't hurry, if I don't fix that, if I don't, I'm dead. And the truth of the matter is, I'm dead when I listen to what is already dead and gone telling me why you have to do this. You have to feel this way. What if you got to a point where you will one day, where you said to yourself, you know what? I would rather die than have a reason for my suffering. I'd rather die than have a reason telling me, here's why you're suffering, here's what you have to do. What you have to, look, can you see that that's what death is? Death is this reincarnation of a consciousness that is always looking out, seeing something apart from itself, punishing it, pushing it around, then explaining to itself what it needs to do about what's doing that, when it's the mind, the consciousness itself, set against itself, only hiding in everything it gives you to be against. I'm going to have to learn to suffer for a new reason. You suffer for all the wrong reasons. Every last one of you, and you don't know it. What you call excitement and all the things you've got going on and all blah, 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 blah. All of that is a way in which you momentarily avoid running once again into a condition that will bring up this conflict in you. And then you'll be right back in the same place, going through the same thing, talking to yourself, judging yourself or others, and then explaining to yourself, given the reasons you have given yourself, why that can't go on the way it is. And the more you don't want it to go on the way it is, the more it goes on the way it is. That's why I said you have to learn what it means to go inside. You have to learn what it means to enter into the awareness of this consciousness and attend to its activity instead of letting it tell you what your activity needs to be to escape it. This is something you are created to be able to do. You're actually meant to be able to do this. Let's bring up the second key lesson. It'll help understand some of this, please. Read along with me. Awareness is the field of all relationships, but it's our attention that determines not only what we experience in that field, but the nature of that experience as well. Awareness is the field of all relationships. You can grasp this, yes? But it's our attention that determines not only what we experience in the whole of this field, but the nature of that experience as well. Here's the nature of the field of the moment. I'm never in the whole field, are you? No, I've got one foot here, one thought there. My mind has always placed me somewhere in that field. And when it places itself separate from everything else that it sees, then it begins to try to figure out why it feels alone, incomplete, like it can't escape itself. The attention. You must learn to develop the attention significant, substantial enough to withstand the tide of these thoughts and feelings, all of these reasons. There's nothing that mind won't say to you. Honestly, nothing it won't say to you to get you to go along with the reasons why you have to obey what it is demanding you do so that you can escape that unwanted moment. I don't know how long it takes. I really don't. For a person to realize that the unwanted moment they don't want is their experience of the moment. It's not the moment creating the unwanted experience. It is this consciousness that doesn't want anything that doesn't match what it says it must match. Will you do something new with an unwanted state? Do you understand the question? It's the exercise. What would happen to you? And you don't have to make this a lifelong thing. What would happen if, how many of you figure, if you're not already negative listening, how many of you realize I'm going to get negative, I'm going to get anxious, I'm going to start being fearful, I'm going to start worrying about tomorrow, worry about what happened 25 years ago, how it affects me now? What would happen if just one time you started to feel that pressure? Because there's always a pressure, isn't there? Every reason you have comes with a whip that you must perform. What would happen if you understood, you know what, I'm just not going to perform anymore? I'm not going to perform. Snap the whip. Tell me everything will go to hell. Everybody's gone. I'll lose it. I don't care. Snap the whip. And you know what will happen if you let that nature snap the whip, meaning give you the reasons why you're a victim and what you need to do? You know what you'll do? What you'll see? You will see into that consciousness and its deception. That's what you will see. And when you see it, even a little bit, that nothing happened the way your mind was telling you with the reasons it was giving you, that nothing happened that way, then you'll be like, wow, this is extraordinary. I went through a moment that I was sure I was going to be a victim of or remain a victim of, and now I understand the only thing I was a victim of was the way that my mind was looking at the moment and telling me about it. I was a victim of my own consciousness, really more accurately, a victim of my own unconscious nature. If that's true, which it is, and I don't know how well I've described it tonight, then what is the only solution? If the truth is that my reasons don't save me but validate the victim in me, what would be the solution? What's the only solution to that? I'm just going to have to let it come up, reach its peak, and then watch it go away, which is what it does. Then you've seen something through your awareness and your willingness to attend to the whole of that moment. I don't know if you can make this leap with me. The whole of that moment, not this part, this section, this little, the whole of that moment. I have to throw this in. There's really only one moment. There's really only one moment, and it's revelation. One moment. It's ceaseless. And that one moment is the ceaseless revelation of the fact that heaven and earth, that the creator and the created, that they sit in this complementary relationship in which, if that nature was willing to see itself in that, it would realize, well, I don't have to make anything out of myself. Aren't you afraid that you'll be made into someone or something if you don't answer the reasons you have for your pain? Aren't you? I'll be made into something. You're being made into something through an unconscious relationship that keeps making you in its image. Let all of that be so clear to you that you realize I don't have to make something of myself. That's insane. Why is it insane? Because I'm never not being made into the perfect reflection of all that I'm given to be and see. Then you have a totally different relationship with life. And you're not a victim anymore of your own reasons. What will you take from these notes? Because I'm done. At least we can start our Q&A. What will you take from this? Can you think to yourself, you know what? The next time I start to have reasons for why I feel the way I do, instead of being identified with the reasons, I'm going to study the nature that's giving me those reasons. I'm going to go into the nature instead of go outside where the nature's telling me I have to go. Just take any relationship and change what you can with the reasons you have for why you're in a negative state. Then you become the student of the consciousness instead of steeped in an endless identification with its threats. Got it? Let's take a break, come back and have our dialogue.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to get started with our Q&A session with Guy. All right, we had a little sound thing going on there. All right. Welcome back. We're going to get started with our Q&A portion of the class. And this will be the time that you can talk directly with Guy. If you're in the GoToWebinar platform, you can raise your hand in there and we will call on you and he will hear you and answer your question. If you're in one of the other platforms, you can go into a chat area and write your question or comment and we will read it if we have time, and Guy can answer that way as well. So in the meantime, I'm going to give a couple of quick announcements. Firstly, tomorrow night, Guy is doing a Zoom event with a New Renaissance bookstore up in Portland, and it will be about a 90-minute event. It's something he's done for a number of years now, and it's attended well, and it's always a really good kind of Q&A interview, and he'll be speaking on actually the same title that he's doing for our talks in the Pines, so it will kind of fold into that. And the title of that talk is going to be Your Passport to a New World Beyond Stress, Struggle, and Useless Pain. So if you'd like to attend that event, I encourage you to go to guyfinley.org/ticket, and you'll be able to get a ticket there and see that event. It's tomorrow night, Thursday night, at 6 p.m. Pacific time. So mark that in your calendar. And then also wanted to remind you about the TIPS event. That event is going to be this month, June 21st through 23rd. It's a 3-day event, and you can live stream it at no cost. But if you come visit us in person, we would love that. It's a $50 donation if you come in person. And then if you can't live stream or come in person, you can always purchase the replay package, which is $24.95. And to register and sign up for all that, you go to guyfinley.org/tickets. And that will be there for you. And it's always, it's nice to do that for many reasons. You can go back and listen to talks, but it's also a nice way to support the foundation. We are a nonprofit and we do rely on your generous donations to keep these free classes going and continue to spread this teaching. So guyfinley.org/donate is how you can help us that way as well. So I think that gets us going. For any of you in the room, you can also go up to the microphone at this time. And we have 3 hands up right now and a number of questions, so we'll just get rolling. We're going to start with Denise. Denise, I'm going to unmute you.
Hello?
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes, hi Denise.
Hi, Guy, everybody. So, Guy, today I heard a song on the radio that made me feel sad. It reminded me of a song that the Life of Learning singers used to sing quite often called Landslide. And I was hoping you'd be able to help me understand it better because I think it relates to tonight's talk.
Indeed.
So it talks about the suffering that comes from identification, I believe. And it says, "Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you. Take my love, take it down. If you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, let the landslide take it down." Now, does that mean
Can I stop you?
do something new with the unwanted state, basically,
Yes.
with the love that is suffering?
No, don't listen. Don't. The person was probably on acid when they wrote that. It's not that there isn't intelligence in it, but Denise, everybody, I guess I'll go down swinging. I will. That's what I'm going to be up here. See, for us, because of this nature, it's never enough. It's never enough. It's funny that you asked this, Denise. I'm going to tell you something that happened to me just this morning that will help you see and understand what it is that happened to you and that happens to everybody, right? For maybe some of you, it's run around Sue that sets you off. The story is sad but true. So I'm making my coffee this morning, like I do every morning. And when I make my coffee, I put stuff in it, and I always put a little whipped cream in my coffee. I like whipped cream. And so I'm sitting there and I go, psh, like that. And my whipped cream goes into my coffee mug. And as it's going in, I start to let go of the nozzle. And as I let go of the nozzle, the whipped cream that was coming out of the nozzle didn't completely come off of the nozzle. So as I'm pulling it away, all of a sudden, and I'm going to take 3 minutes to explain something to you. It was like that. As I part to pull away, I see that the whipped cream doesn't look like it's going in the cup. Looks like it's going on the outside of the cup and maybe on the counter. That's all faster than you can describe. In that same moment, Denise, my mind was showing me it's going to be a bad day. I'm going to have to do this and get that done, then clean up, and then why do you do that? And let's change. In less than a moment, in less time than it took to say these words, the whole of my life was outlined by that dangling whipped cream.
Yeah.
Now, you don't understand the significance of that. That never not happens to you. But you're never there. You never see how whatever that dangling moment, that dangling relationship, that dangling song, whatever it may be, that it instantaneously is reflected in a consciousness replete with all of its conditioning, all of the things that did and didn't happen along the lines of whatever that association may be. And it all just comes up like that. And when it comes up like that, you're not aware of all the intricacies of that one reaction. You just see the reaction, and then you wonder why you're sad. And then you want to know what to do about the sad, and does it relate to this love that came down the mountain when the snow fell and all the rest of that? No, I'm dead serious, because it brings it up in me. I want to know, isn't it enough just to be? Just to see, because everything else is a fool's errand. You'll never take thought about any of these reactions and then the reasons for them and what you have to do so you don't experience this sadness anymore because I've gotten older and my kids and my friends, all this is going away, and look at. You'll never understand that until you understand that what's taking place in you isn't you at all. But it's going on so that you can see who you really are and understand that all of that is grist for the mill. Oh, a moment like that. I spent 75 years waiting for one moment, which is always the way the work is. When suddenly you see, without having to take thought, the whole of how you get involved in all the things that you start thinking along those lines. Whipped cream spilled, it's going to be a bad day. Now I got to go figure out what to do about the day that's coming, because if I don't get that straightened out, now I've got reasons for why I have to rush. And you can't see how it's just a set of tumbling blocks. But you see it one time, and it goes back to what the whole talk was about today. What, doesn't it? See it one time. I'd be a fool to think about that. I saw it. It's enough. I saw it. It's enough. And that's all there is I saw it, or I didn't, and usually I don't. But when I see it, let it be enough. And if you'll let it be enough, then instead of that moment cut off as it is by the reactions and the reasons for them, then your attention begins to be able to remain in that field within yourself where all of this is playing itself out. Listen to me, at speeds that the mind, the thought nature, the intellect can't even begin to get close to comprehending. But there is something in you, this field of awareness, that everything as it moves through it can be seen like it's moving in slow motion. It was like Groundhog Day 50 times, all in a heartbeat, only I didn't have to relive it. Do you understand what I'm pointing to? At least the possibility? Denise, am I getting through? Or did the landslide take you down?
Yeah, I don't know.
We just love. There is a part of this nature that doesn't just live for pain, but that loves the pain it lives. When you see for yourself that there is something in you that cannot wait to relive something that is painful, you will begin to understand why you have the reasons for that. They are coming to you from a pain nature that cannot live without something it doesn't want. And so it keeps not wanting it, and you keep getting to experience yourself. False self. Over to you, John. Leah. Doug.
Okay.
Somebody.
No worries. Okay, Guy, we have 2 hands and 7 questions. I'm going to go ahead and read a question. This is from Real on YouTube. Hello. Here's my question. A few years ago, I made a mistake and took the wrong pills, which severely damaged my brain. To cope with my new condition, I created a new persona for myself, and I met someone online. We communicated for 2 years, and I finally decided to meet her. She didn't notice anything during our first meeting, but then started acting cold and suspicious, sometimes even not responding to my messages. I want to tell her what happened to me, but I'm not sure if I should. She said if I was in love with her, she had said I was her love. I was her love, but if I tell her, I fear I will never be a man in her eyes again. I'm certain of that and so afraid of losing her, even though she doesn't love and respect me anymore, and I can't hide from this truth. Thank you for your help.
So no matter how you would otherwise describe it, this man, I'm assuming, has had a series of difficult experiences that in order for him seemingly to deal with the experiences, he said he had developed and created a kind of a new persona. And that with that new persona, he went on and met someone acting from that persona. And then something happened in that relationship where she no longer seemed to appreciate or care for that person. And now he's wondering if he shouldn't go back and tell her what happened, so that hopefully she could change her mind about him. Is that a fair synopsis? It makes no difference whether you do or don't. It's the one thing we don't want to hear. I want to know what to do about this pain. Your life and every person in this room and everyone listening, whether they'll admit it or not, is nothing but a series of falling down, reaching a dead end, making another start that goes nowhere except back to where I was in the beginning. And then when I find myself in that place, listening to all the reasons why it happened that way, and then listening to those reasons, what I have to do to resolve whatever that pain is that started me on that to begin with. I know this isn't what you asked for, but I'm telling you that either you leave this situation you're in a wiser man than the one who is presently suffering over it, or you will be the man who continues not to just suffer over this relationship, but every other one that is invented in an attempt, a vain attempt, to change the feelings you have because of what happened. It is so difficult sometimes because you know this person's suffering. I know this man is suffering. Who hasn't suffered that way? I had a relationship. I thought it was great. She said she loved me. All of a sudden, everything I was banking on has disappeared. The account's empty. And I don't know what to do to replenish it, to get it back so that I can be who I was when everything seemed to be going well. But what if, sir, what if there's an entirely different relationship that you can have with yourself first? Where you can see, and I promise you, I understand this. I swear to you I do. Sweet God, I'm so tormented. My every waking thought, if it's not about food or something else that I have to do, is filled with this pressure of how do I relieve this? How do I escape this terrible circumstance that I'm in? That I don't want under, no matter what, I don't want it. It torments me. I can't do anything but think about it. And how many times are you in that same place? Only not with her, but with your health. Or not with your health, but with the hellacious world that you live in. All I know to do with my torment is to explain it to myself and try to escape it through whatever the reasons are I have. What if I understand I can't escape myself, and that myself keeps creating these conditions that I go into hoping the condition will be different than the consciousness that created it, only to find out I've walked right back into the same mind field, M-I-N-D field, same mind field. Because if I even see that remotely, sir, if I even suspect it, maybe I can do something a little bit different with my pain. And the only way I can do anything different with my pain is to understand the nature responsible for it. And that woman, what she has said or done or leaves you or doesn't leave you, is not the reason for your pain. The pain, sir, is because you don't know who you are. That's really the only pain any of us have. What am I always trying to do? Trying to figure out how to get through something that will prove to me that I am what I've imagined myself to be. And I have to sell my soul for you to agree with it, and I have to sell my soul to get through it. And then one day you realize I'm not selling my soul anymore. Just one little encouragement. It's impossible to be, for any of us, anything more than we are in the moment. My mind doesn't work. My mind doesn't work. My heart is dry. My heart is dry. I'm full of rage. I'm full of rage. But if I'm there, then being there means I'm aware of all of these qualities, the tide of torment that rises and falls depending upon what people do or don't do. And I watch it. I watch it. I watch it. And as I watch it, I become something other than the one identified with it. Because now I can see the torment of being identified instead of living out the torment because I don't know who I am without this person or that problem or that circumstance. There's such hope in this, sir. God did not make a mistake with you. God did not make a mistake with any human being. We are mistaken in our relationship with the divine, and there is all of our suffering accordingly. Over to you, John, Aaliyah, Doug.
We're going to go to Roy.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Roy.
Oh, hi. You may have actually answered my question that I even wrote out and what I was going to ask verbally per the moderator's suggestion, but I'll ask it in a different spirit, I guess, and maybe you can even help shed more light on it. And it's this, like as human beings, like when I'm hungry, I'm aware of the moment. It's an unwanted moment. So I go and get something to eat. I did something about that unwanted moment and took care of it. So is it surprising that as human beings, when we have unwanted situations or people, relationship problems or whatever, we have sort of the same mentality right around that too? If we just take care of it, the hunger will go away, so to speak. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've mixed up a couple things there, Roy. If I'm hungry, there is a discomfort, but it is a natural discomfort that has a natural need that is answered naturally when I take food. But if I'm uncomfortable and distressed because of someone or something in this world, then I have at that moment what we will call an unnatural need to resolve the condition rather than recognizing the condition is because of an unseen, unnatural demand in me. And the clearer that demand in me becomes as the source of the problem instead of the solution to it when I listen to it direct me, then I can get on the path of using these moments properly as I'm intended to. And the proper use of the moment is that you don't leave the moment the same person that went into it. That's the proper use of the moment. Over to you, Leah, John, Doug.
Okay, Guy, we have one hand up, 2 questions, and 3 questions left over from Sunday, the Divine Flow class. I think we'll go to Susanna next with her question. Susanna says, what is awareness? How do we know when we are in awareness? Look at the problem, review how we blame, observe what? Where do we place our attention? The scenario, the feeling, the hurt in our body, where?
What is awareness? In the truest sense of the word, awareness is a relationship between everything that is within it. There is the simple awareness a deer has of its surroundings. And in its simple awareness of its surroundings, it is given by its nature how to move through what it is experiencing so that nature tells that creature through that creature's awareness of its circumstances where and what needs to be done in order to be safe to get food, so forth and so on. Human beings have this simple awareness. You're hungry. How do you know you're hungry? You're aware of it. You're in pain. How do you know you're in pain? You're aware of it. Now, the interesting thing is that this awareness is always the product of a certain disparity. This awareness is always the experience of a certain difference between the observer and the observed in that moment. I'm hungry. I'm aware of my hunger. So that in that moment, this simple awareness allows me to recognize I'm waiting for, I must take food in order to bring an end to this hunger that I've got. If you can make this leap with me, I'm aware of my pain, and now I'm also aware of the fact that I don't know and will never know how to bring an end to the pain by listening to the mind that tells me what to do. That awareness, Susanna, is action. Only in this instance, it's non-action. I'm aware of the fact that the more reasons I have for why I suffer, the more my suffering is validated. I'm aware of that. If I'm aware of that, that awareness is action, non-action. That awareness lets me know I can't do this, I can't go there. And my attention to that allows me to have a relationship with that moment that my ordinary attention that belongs to this resistance will never know. I don't like any of the answer I just gave you. I'm trying to answer the reason you've asked the question, not the question you've asked. I ask the questions I do about awareness because I'm not aware of what is avoiding me being aware of myself. I ask the questions I do about awareness because I'm not aware of the part of me that doesn't want to be present. All these questions are a way in which this mind avoids the reality of its experience. Awareness and experience are synonymous. I have this experience. How do I know I've had an experience? I'm aware of it. I'm having this pain. How do I know I'm having this pain? I'm aware of it. If I'm aware of my pain, I can be aware of the fact that something is forever trying to avoid being present to it. It says it wants to deal with it. It doesn't want to deal with it. It wants to deliver you into the hands of something that continues to expound upon whatever it is that's punishing you. So there's no awareness of it. That's the best I can do. I'm going to mull that over a little bit, Susanna. I know you come back frequently. I'll come back to that with a way in which you can better understand the real question behind what you're asking. Leah, if there's a hand, a live hand, we'll take it. And with my apologies, we'll close the chat because we're already at 7:35.
Okay, we're going to Steve. Steve, you need to unmute yourself. If you're on a cell phone, Steve, you have to make the button white. It looks like Steve is not able to unmute himself.
Just as well. Susanna.
Hi.
There, he did it.
Hi, Steve.
Hello there, Guy.
What's on your mind?
I don't want to scare anybody. I don't want to scare anyone off or cause any trouble, but I want to make sure I'm getting this. Can you answer the question, I am Amalek, true or false? Do you know what I'm speaking about?
I am what?
Is it Amalek? Does it go that deep?
You're using a
Story
word.
of Amalek.
I have no idea what this word is that you've said. And even if I did.
It's the biblical reference, Guy. Old Testament, Solomon in Psalms. And it's just a reference to when Israel was leaving Egypt and they started being harassed by the Amalekites. I think that was like the beginning of Hamas. So I'm just asking if Steve is Amalek. Does it go that deep?
You know, I can't, anything I would say would be improper to say because I don't understand the reference of the question. I will say to you that there is no story that has ever unfolded on this planet that isn't your story. Both sides of it, I would add, very distinctly, I can tell you that. But the rest, I don't know. You have to send that in for a deep dive, perhaps the reference, and maybe I can examine it and then be more accurate. Back to Susanna.
Okay, I'd send in some other questions, and I'll be happy to wait. Thank you.
Yes, Steve. When you go to the beach, do you enjoy the thought of the ocean, or do you enjoy the awareness of it? Is the thought of the ocean the experience of the awareness of it? Is not every thought conditioned by every other thought? So that no matter what you're thinking, it isn't you that's aware of something, but rather something that is producing a sensation connected to what you identify with through those thoughts. That's all you need to know, Susanna. Thought is not awareness, but you can be aware of thought. Thought doesn't know what it does to itself as that mind takes thought in order to try to add to itself or escape itself. But you can be aware of the mind trying to escape itself or add to itself through thought, and in that awareness you know not to take thought any longer as you've taken it, let alone the reasons it gives you for why it's so pressing. Good night.